Okay. Trying to figure out all this technology. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wealthy You Wind Down Wednesday. How's everybody doing? In the chat, let me know where you hail from so I can give you some shout outs. Man, it is a lot going out in these financial streets. And our topic tonight is money smart kids, but I may veer off a little bit because the market has been responding to a couple of bank failures. And I think you may want me to weigh in on that. So come in. And in fact, in the chat, what is the burning issue on your mind when it comes to your money? So in the chat, let me know that as well. So let's see who's in the house with me. Deborah Mighton's here from Arkansas. Hey. Callie's in the house. Yes, let me make sure everyone can hear me and can see me. Okay, that's right. Kansas City, Missouri. Hey, Roxanne, good to see you. McCole Spicer, good to see you. Good evening. Yvonne, I love Yvonne. Yvonne, she's one of our first folks to get on for Wealthy You Wind Down Wednesday. And it's interesting that when I'm coaching through the day or talking to folks, they'll be like, see you tonight. So I feel like we have this date and it's good to be here. I tell you, it's a lot going on. And in fact, it's interesting. I've been posting on LinkedIn and on Twitter. If you're not following me there or linked to me there, you definitely need to link to me there because that's where I kind of chop it out in these internet streets. So follow me on Twitter. That's at Deborah Owens. Link to me on LinkedIn because everyone who's a member of the WealthyU community knows that if you want to level up, you need to be leveling up, and you can do that on LinkedIn. So I'm always making comments connected to some really cool people because that's what LinkedIn is about. Make sure you're watching me on Get Wealthy, and I'll talk about that on the Black Star Network. And by the way, tag a friend if you know they need to be on here. We are streaming live on YouTube and in the Facebook community as well. So come on in, because honey, I got a lot that I want to talk about tonight. But again, in the chat, I would love to hear what is on your mind, what is burning, what are your concerns? There's a lot going on, right? Inflation, we're hearing about that. The recession numbers came out yesterday. They weren't as high as they thought, but really top of mind are the concerns that people have about, is my money safe in the bank? Because we had one of the second largest bank in the country, SVB, primarily they're based in Silicon Valley. That's SVB stands for Silicon Valley Bank. And what's interesting about that bank is they became the second largest bank in the past couple of years simply because a lot of venture capital was going into that bank. So who would like for me to give you the lowdown and the background on what is going on with the banks? All right, so let's see. Minnie says, I've been following this bank collapse. It's interesting. That's right. Let's see. Hello, Valerie, East Point, Michigan, Carolyn Franklin, Newcastle, Delaware. Okay, yes, please. Anna says, yes, please. Okay, awesome. Well, come on in, because we need to know what's going on out here in these financial streets so we can make sure that we know how to keep our purses full, keep our wallets full, depending upon what you carry. And what I do want to say, and one of the things you're going to learn in WealthyU, how many of you, if this is your first time joining me on WealthyU Wind Down, in the chat, let me know if you're a first timer. If you are a first timer in WealthyU Wind Down, I want to make sure I give you a shout out. And also, I really want to encourage you to invite your friends to our WealthyU community. If this is your first time, I know we're doing quite a lot of marketing these days. We've got, and I'll talk about that a little later, our Get Wealthy 5-Day Challenge is coming up. And that's where we show you where the money resides. If you want to know where the money resides, then you definitely want to join our 5-Day Get Wealthy Challenge, which starts on Monday, this coming Monday, March 20th. We're going to have all kind of prizes, all kind of things going on. You can also up level into our VIP and get some actual one-on-one time with me. But anyway, we want to make sure that you take advantage of that opportunity. It's 5 straight nights of serious conversation on what you need to do to secure the bag, right? What you need to do to secure the bag. And the bottom line is, this is not our parents' economy. You know, the days of us relying on some job to take us to the promised land and give us a check that's going to take care of our, financial future, that's just not happening. Anna says, I'm in. Excellent. Well, it's glad to see you. Tony Johnson says, first time, but used to listen to you on the radio. Well, great. It's good to see you. I've been off radio for a minute now. I was on radio for a long time on the NPR in Baltimore. Well, it is good to have you here. So excellent. Let's get this party started. So has anyone, now in the chat, let me know, has anyone done one of our challenges before? If you have, put me in the chat. If you've done one of our challenges, put me. And for those who are watching this on Facebook, on YouTube, make sure you put that in the comments, because we're going to follow up on that as well. Okay, good. Mary says me. Shakita says me. Yeah, well, even if you've taken our challenge before, we put a little fizz in the game. We change it up. And what I'm really sharing with you, can you guys keep a secret? In the chat, tell me, can you keep a secret? Well, let me just say the secret's out of the bag already, because the truth is that my new book, Get Wealthy, Insider Secrets, is on the way. In fact, we're in the final editing process, and we're going to launch that book. And so you are getting a preview during this challenge, actually, of what is in the book. And the premise of the book is basically I'm sharing with you the insider secrets of those 1% that you always hear about. How many feel like other people know things that you don't, and so that's why you're not further ahead? Or maybe you feel like things have been hidden from you and they're not clear. How many of you can relate to that? In the chat, let me know. If you feel like you did not get the blueprint. Do you feel like other people have financial blueprint and it's allowed them to go further, but you followed the other blueprint and somehow you feel like you're stuck, like you're hitting a wall? Can you relate to that? Like, no matter what you do, no matter how many degrees you get, no matter how many networking events you are with, no matter how many organizations you're with, somehow it just doesn't seem like you're getting ahead. If you can relate to that, that's right. Tell me I can relate. Well, what I want all of you to know, what I'm revealing in my new book, Get Wealthy, is really that the financial success blueprint you were given was never designed to help you achieve any level of financial independence. I want you guys to hear me. That financial blueprint of get more education, get a career, get a 6-figure income, get a house, that's the way the built wealth was never designed for you to achieve any level of financial independence. And in WealthyU, what we are giving you is those insider secrets, that knowledge. We're sharing with you the wealth building secrets of the 1% so that you can accelerate your financial growth. And we bring the receipts. In Get Wealthy, we're sharing stories of our members right here in this community who, once they were given the right blueprint, they were able to see their investments double 5 times, 10 times, right? And what I want you to know is that if it can happen for them, it can happen for you. In the chat, just let's affirm this, that it can happen for me. But I want you to know you're in the right place. So let me just introduce who I am. I'm Deborah Owens. I'm founder and CEO of WealthyU, where we help women accelerate their financial growth to 7 figures and beyond. Through our programs, this is part of our suite, if you will. WealthyU Wind Down Wednesday is where we take the edge off of a topic that can be so stressful, right? Money. And we make it fun, but not only do we make it fun, we bring insight to you. And on our team, we have ambassadors and women who were sitting right where you were, leaned in, and now they have accelerated their financial growth and they're here to support you. So let me just ask you, it's WealthyU Wind Down Wednesday. I'm about to have a toast and you can have your adult beverage, but what are you guys drinking tonight? What's your toast tonight? In the chat, if you're joining me on WealthyU Wind Down Wednesday and you have your favorite drink in the hand, let me know in the chat. Well, let me know, let you know, I mean, I'm kind of boring. I drink my saying, you're drinking water on the rocks. All right. Hey, I'm not mad at y'all because that's healthy. Hey, Tia, it's good to see you. Water on the rocks. It's all good. Well, I'm drinking another Cabernet. Oh, you know what? Listen, last week I had y'all hanging, didn't I? I left y'all hanging, didn't I? T forgot to pick up my wine. Check this out. I told y'all last week I was going to tell you a backstory behind this wine that I'm drinking tonight. Okay. So let me start out so I don't forget. So anyhow, the wine that I'm drinking is called Hall. And it's a winery in Napa Valley, right in St. Helens. And so that's sort of the what do I want to call it? The epicenter where everything's happening. And so we went out to Napa and it was during COVID. So a lot of the wineries, you had to have an appointment. You had to have, reservations because they were really limiting the amount of people that could be in one of these wineries. By the way, in the chat, let me know how many of you have ever been to Napa or have been to a wine tasting. If you've been to a Napa and been to a wine tasting, let me know if you have. Okay, so anyhow, we lived in Virginia says yes, Anna says yes, both wine tasting. That's right. So in fact, I didn't realize it, but we flew into Oakland and we lived in Northern California. And my kids were really young and I didn't even realize how close we lived to Napa. We couldn't have been more than an hour from Napa where we lived when we were in California. Probably a good thing my kids were young because, that would have been my spot like back in the day before I had children. But anyhow, so we visit Napa, we're on vacation, we're in a house, Airbnb, our kids join us. And in fact, there were a group of us friends who were staying at different places. And we had initially, the reason we were there was because of the Napa Jazz Festival, but they canceled it. So we said, we're just going anyway. And anyhow, so we are in Napa. And so we're kind of like doing stealth, because we had made a few reservations, but where we were staying, we would travel back and forth, and we could see, we were right kind of in the heart of, like I said, the epicenter of all the wineries. And there was this big silver rabbit that you could see at this one winery. And so we kept going back and forth, but right on the front, they told you, got to have reservations, right? So many of you may not know my husband, but he's a former investigative reporter, and he just does not follow rules. Those rules on that sign, those rules must be for somebody else, because they certainly are not for us. So anyhow, my daughter and I, we're going back and forth. So finally, he just rolls on up into the parking lot, and he's like, I'm going to go in here and see if we can get in here, even if we don't have reservations. And I was like, I'm one of those people. I do like following the rules. So anyhow, next thing I know, he comes out and says, come on, we can get in. And, they had some other exclusive areas. We couldn't get into there, but it was a beautiful, beautiful winery. And that's really how, by going through their wine tasting, sampling some of their wines, that I fell in love with this particular wine. So it's called Hall Cabernet. And if you want a good Cabernet, it's great. Now, it's not real expensive, but it's not cheap. But it is a fabulous wine. And so whenever I can find it at a good price, and just a tip, if you are in a state where Costco sells wine, they typically carry it. Okay. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's get on in to what we're up to. But the first thing I want to tell you about is this week on Get Wealthy. How many have watched? Can you say the name again? Okay. It's just Hall, Hall. Hall. And it is a Cabernet Sauvignon. That is or you could just say cab. You're looking for Hall Cab, roll on up into Total Wine or whatever. And they tell you, and in fact, you can go into Total Wine and they're at about the same price as Costco. So check that out. All right. Okay. So now I want to shift gears a little bit, because I want to talk about our most recent episode of Get Wealthy. And the reason why Get Wealthy is important, the reason why this episode is so important is it's because raising money smart kids. So I want to ask you guys a question. How different would your life have been if you had someone who had given you a blueprint, had from the time you were a child, literally showed you how to invested on your behalf? Well, even bigger than that, how different would your life have been if that you had already had a portfolio of stocks when you were born? How different would that have been for you? In the chat, let me know. If you were born and your family had a portfolio of stocks already in your name, in a trust, what do you think would be different from you? So let me see. I'd likely own more now and have more set up for my own kids. That's good, Tamala. What else? Lemerle says, I cannot imagine. Anna says, would have been life-changing. Zerlee says, shut the front door, really. Deborah says, oh my God, it would have been game changer for my life. Consett said I would already be retired. Anna says generational wealth. And Tony says financially stable. That's exactly right. So what I want you guys to understand is that the most valuable asset of all is not money, right? It really is the knowledge of how to build wealth, right? So if someone has this set aside and then says to you, Tony, from the time you're born at Christmas, right? I mean, Christmas here, under the tree, we added this investment to your portfolio. If you were Jewish at your bar mitzvah, you would have gotten gifts, and some of those gifts would have been in the form of stocks, right? Or investments, not just money. And then your parents sat you down and they really talked with you about how they had created this investment and how their parents had given them this investment. And now you have this portfolio, you have these dividends going on. And then, you know what, when you go to college, this is how much of this portfolio we have allocated for you. So do you think that would be a lot different for you if that had happened? Absolutely. Because think about it. The average student loan debt for African Americans is about $30,000 compared to 1/3 of that for our white counterparts. And so what I want you to understand is that so much of the knowledge that you learn in WealthyU, it's knowledge that typically is inherited, right? Either someone in your family had that knowledge, there was a financial advisor that your parents took you to and talked about that investment portfolio, or you even had someone close to you who actually taught you how to do it. That's the reason that WealthyU exists. And so where did I get that knowledge? Well, I stumbled upon it, right? I stumbled upon it by someone giving me an opportunity to work at a very large investment company and then spending 2 decades in it. And as a result of that, really eyes being open to, wow, this is something that my parents never exposed me to. And you know what was really, really crazy? Even though I went to a private high school and had at that point, before I started working at these companies, a college, I had never been exposed to this information. And the reason it's so important that you gain this knowledge yourself, why do you think that is? Why is it important for you to learn how to invest, for you to learn how to analyze and research mutual funds, for you to be able to understand what happened with this bank crash and not be fearful about it and understand how to respond? Why do you think that's important? Lamerle said, that's the real wealth. That's right. Virginia, that's right, to pass the knowledge on. That's why it's important. And so this week's episode of Get Wealthy, I want you to watch it because what I was so excited about was this young lady created a company, and that is her focus. It's not you and me. It's actually 8 to 18-year-olds, and what we need to be doing as parents. On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, the studies show that millennials and Gen Xers will be less well off than their parents. What can we do to make sure that we get to children younger and that they have the right money habits? Well, joining me on the next Get Wealthy is an author who's created a master playbook.
Be willing to share some of your money mistakes, right? If that's what you have to lean on, Start with the money mistakes that you have made, but don't just tell the mistake, right? Tell the lesson in the mistake.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
So that's gonna be good. So you want to check out Get Wealthy this week and everything that she had to say. And the title of her book is Teach Them How to Fish. And so this is a perfect time for me to really segue into what I feel like the conversation needs to be this evening. Because, think about it. Like, I talked a little bit about, imagine if you had learned this, but imagine you're able to learn it yourself and now teach it to your kids. Now, the reason it's so important to learn this yourself is the exact lesson that we can learn from the reason that Silicon Valley Bank. And what's really, really interesting is it's something that it's definitely a skill that our members in WealthyU learn. And when I saw this, what the underpinnings of this bank and what the actual cause of it crashing, it had me to think back and relate it to an exercise that we do right here in WealthyU. And so who's ready to learn tonight? Y'all ready to learn something tonight? Okay. So before I get started, I'm interested in knowing, do any of you know why Silicon Valley Bank failed, being one of the second largest, being the second largest bank in the US? So let me see, can you, anybody guess? Why do you think, so you've been hearing the reports, why did the bank fail? And it happened very quickly. Why did it fail? Risky investments. Interesting. What else do you think it was? Anybody else think it was risky investments? Stephanie says no money. Dion says not having enough to cover all the people that were taking it out. Tasha says inflation. Juanita says bonds. I think that's Angela Myers says high interest rates. Controls were removed. Well, let me just say all of the above. So here's what I want all of you to understand. Well, let's take a walk down. Let's just look at recent history and some of the impacts and the things that have happened, right? So 2 years ago, what kind of rate could you get on a mortgage? Okay, what kind of rate could you get on a mortgage? Anybody remember? So mortgage rates were about 2 to 4%. That's right, Zerlene, right? Where are mortgage rates today? If you were to take out a 30-year mortgage, what would your mortgage rate be? 6, right? 6 3/4, 7, depending upon what your credit is, right? Now I want you to think back to 2 to 3 years ago. What were you earning on your savings, right? Like 2 years ago, what were you earning on your savings? Like a CD, what could you get 2 years ago? Yeah, barely 1%, right? Or 2%. What are CD rates today? What are CD rates? You could get, in fact, I just talked to some, right, 4 3/4. So in just 2 years, what you've seen is interest rates double, right? So I want you to imagine if last year you bought a CD and it was a 5-year CD and you got 2% on it, and today you could get 5%, do you think if you wanted to get your money back, that you could get it back and hold, or that you wouldn't pay a penalty? No, right? Because it wouldn't have as much value, because your little pitiful CD is only paying 2% and mine is paying 5%. Okay. So now I want to talk a little bit to the members in WealthyU and see if you understand this. Now, one of the things we talk about when we're analyzing and researching bond funds, when you look at that sheet and you're analyzing and researching stock funds, you have 5 criteria. But when you have a bond fund, what is the other thing that you have to look at? You guys remember what that is? I just want to see if you guys have been analyzing in your research. And listen, most of y'all have bonds anyway, had most of your money in bonds before you came into WealthyU. Duration, right? Duration. And what is duration? Duration is the average maturity of the bonds in your portfolio. And one of the things it says is that you do not want to have bonds that are far out, because if interest rates go up, what does it make the value of your bonds do? If interest rates go up, the value of your bonds go down. That's exactly right. Okay, so now we're going to switch on over to this SVB situation. And basically what happened is, a couple of years ago, they were the recipient of a lot of capital, because there was a lot of venture capital being invested in companies, and many of those companies were based in Silicon Valley. And so the venture capital firms themselves parked that money in Silicon Valley Bank. And not only did they park that money in Silicon Valley Bank, but when they awarded or gave capital to an early stage company, they would put their money in that bank. Okay, so let's say I'm a company, WealthyU, and I get, that's why venture capital can get a double-edged sword. Someone gives me $2 million. And with that $2 million, they want me to create $20 million out of that $2 million. I'm just telling you that they want you to 10x it. So you first get that $2 million, and you got to hire people, and you've got to, pay for marketing. And so typically you put that money in there, but what are you going to do? You're going to need that money, right? Now, you won't necessarily need the money if you're making money, right? So now, in a perfect world, what would happen is you would give these small companies this money, and they would invest it, and then they would have a lot of sales, and a lot of sales would put money into the bank. That's a good thing, right? But now, sometimes things don't always work out the way they plan. Because what happened? Even though a lot of companies, just like my company, did well during COVID because we were virtual and we were able to shift. But right after that, once the Fed stopped stimulating the economy by lowering interest rates, right? Then what happened? What did the Fed do? Because they felt like the economy was being overheated. What did they do? What happened? You guys know? In the past year, what has happened? Interest rates have increased because the Fed was trying to slow down the economy because of inflation, because the cost of goods were just double digits, right? Like, what was it? Chicken wings went to $7. Eggs are at $6. So all this inflation going on, the way that the Fed would lower interest rates, because they lowered interest rates, now they had to raise interest rates. That's right. So everyone said raised interest rates, raised interest rates. So imagine you are this bank 2 years ago, and you've got all this money. And you know that the thing about banks is, the thing about banks is that they can only invest that money, deposit, because those are deposits, banks deposits. They can only put that money in certain things, okay? And the certain things they can put that money in are government securities. So they could be treasury bills. Treasury bills mature within a year. They could be treasury notes. Typically a note, if I recall, they have to be under 5 years, I think a note, or 2 years. But a bond would be too long, but they can put them in very short-term mortgage-backed securities, right? And so if they're smart, what they want to do is the bottom line is, if interest rates are going up, you don't want to have any investments in long-term bonds. You only want to have them in very short-term bonds. The problem is eggs are still $5 a dozen, I know, right? So the Fed didn't help out the grocery bill that much by raising these rates. But anyhow, so what happened, and this is true, was a perfect storm, right? Think about this. We're in a recession. Those small companies that have been given this money, it's tough to make money, right? So they're burning through that money. So they're not putting money in, they're simply taking money out, right? That's one thing. So they need those deposits. Interest rates go up, people are taking more money out faster than it's going in. So now what do you think they had to do? They had to sell some of their bonds at a loss. And when investors got wind of it, because the thing is, you can see treasuries being sold on the market. It's a public market. You can see the balance, right, of how many people are selling and how many people are buying, just you can't stop. And so then some big venture capitalists got wind that they were having problems and they were having to sell some of their investments at a loss. And so that's what they meant. It was a run on the bank. Y'all with me? Is this making sense to you? And the reason why I think this is such a teachable moment is all of you, everyone needs to be looking at their investment portfolios. And you need to be making sure that you're not in any bond funds that have very long-term bonds in them. Because if you do, what you're going to see is the share price, if it's in a bond fund, those bond funds are going to be negatively impacted. And the reason why I feel like this is really, really important is because here's the interesting thing. When we talk about the wealth gap, the reason that the wealth gap is so wide is not only do households of colors, Blacks, Latinos, not inherit wealth, right? But what do you think is, when we do have money, where's the first place we want to invest that money? In the chat. What are we more likely to do if we get some money? Where are we going to invest it? Or where are we going to put the money at? In the bank. Where else might we put the money at? We're going to put it in certificates of bonds. Roxanne says buy stuff, but I just mean for even for those of us who are investing. See, here's the thing I want you guys to understand. I know there's this trope out here that says that, well, you know, when Black folks get money, all they do is spend, but that isn't necessarily true, right? Especially not just Black, everybody in the middle class, if they get some money, they spend it. But the point I'm trying to make is even when it comes to our retirement plans, when it comes to our investment accounts, when it comes to where we save our money, that's where we typically put it at, right? What you may not know are those so-called safe target funds. What they are asset allocation funds, and they're allocated into stocks and bonds, and typically a very large portion, because the way you fill out a form and you say, oh, I don't want high risk and I don't want to lose my money, that money's going to end up in bonds. And in fact, if we look at white households versus Black households, this is what's interesting. I just looked at this chart, and it's that in white households, 65% of their money is invested where? Where do you think the majority of money in white households is invested? Anybody want to guess? In the chat. Zerlene says stocks. Roxanne says equity, stock market. That's right. That's exactly right. Where do you think the majority of investments are made in Black households? Where do you think we invest our money? Real estate, not investing, consumer. No, bonds. And you know why? They're in fixed income assets. They're in annuities, right? Which typically underneath those are fixed income investments. The fact is that, that's right, CDs, but fixed 65% of our investments are in bonds. When we choose where to invest our money in our retirement plans, most of it is in bonds. If you're a government employee, you know that, and this is a little game y'all play too, because I've talked to, we have a number of you in WealthyU, is you have the C fund, which is stock, you have the S fund, which is large cap stock, you have the S fund, which is small cap stocks, you have the G fund, which is really a guaranteed fund that goes up and down. It can't lose value. You have an F fund, which is a fixed income fund, which is like a bond fund. And I got to tell you, most of your investments are either in what are their target date funds or in that F or G fund. And that is the reason why our money doesn't grow as fast. I want you guys to get this. But the reason why I thought this was a teachable moment is because it teaches you that there is risk in everything that you do. And what do you think you call the risk that is associated with bonds? What is the risk that you take on when you invest in what are called fixed income investments, that a lot of times you think, oh, I want my money to be safe? Roxanne says low risk. No, it's called interest rate risk. Okay, that is what SVB is an example of, interest rate risk. Now, what I find so fascinating though is who in the world told them to invest? And this is another lesson, okay? So if someone says to me Deb, where do you think I should invest my money? What do you think the first question I'm going to ask them? Anybody want to guess in the chat? If you are going to invest some money, what is the first question you need to be answer? What is the first question you need to answer? Lamerle, ding, 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 ding. When are you going to need it? What is the goal for the money, right? Now, if the goal for the money is, I could need this money at any time, what do you think the time frame is? Short, right? So if the time frame is short, where is the only place you should invest that money? In short-term investments, a money market, a CD, something that's going to mature within 6 months, a year, 18 months, depending upon you, if you need it. Like if you say, oh, I'm saving this up to buy a house and I'm going to buy it in 3 to 5 years, then you're going to put it in something short-term, a short-term bond fund that the maturity of those bonds don't go further than that. Is this making sense to you? Or you're going to put it in a CD, a 6-month CD, a 1-year CD. You could even ladder them. But the reason why this is such an important lesson for all of us is that the first thing we have to understand is that every investment carries risk. If you invest in stocks, what is the risk in stocks? What risk do you have if you invest in stock? Anybody want to guess? Come on, you know this. It's higher risk, and you could lose all of your money. I mean, if you invested it in a company that went out of business, just like SVB. Listen, do you know what the price of the shares were on SVB stock 2 days before it went out of business? Anybody want to guess? How much was it? Yeah, it was 184. In fact, it was about 270. Right? $270. Is that crazy? And so the point I want to make is that's exactly why you want to join the 5-day Get Wealthy Challenge. Because all of the concepts that I'm talking about right now is what you're going to learn. You're going to learn the secrets of the 1%. And first, we're going to spend some time on mindset. Because the first thing I have to have everybody understand is that there's risk in everything. And you have to, the more knowledge you have, the more your ability to take on calculated risk. Okay, number one. And that's because you're able to analyze and research and understand if that company is going to be an investment. And the other point I want to make is this market is down right now. What do you think you should be doing? Well, there's opportunity in that. And so in the chat, please put, and in our Facebook page, please go, the link is it has a bit.ly link, Get Wealthy Challenge, Get Wealthy Challenge. You want to join us. The 5-day challenge starts on Monday at 8 o'clock. Join today to make sure that and the other thing I want to encourage you to do is to get the VIP opportunity, because the VIP, prior to coming on every night, you're going to be able to ask your specific questions. Perhaps you're concerned about the market. Perhaps You're concerned about what you're doing. Perhaps you want to understand exactly what you need to do in your situation. The VIP challenge gives you access, it gives you workbook, it gives you so much additional knowledge, because here's what I want everybody to understand. And this was the biggest secret that I learned, is that it is during times of volatility, during recessions, during market downturns, that millionaires are made, right? Like, I know it may be difficult for you to understand. And I know if you turn on the television every day, that you would think that the market is going to crash, that the economy is terrible, that everybody's laying off, that this is really an awful time. What I am here to tell you, and what I learned by being in the company of the 1%, is no, they do not become fearful. During the challenge, I'm going to be sharing with you exactly what you need to be doing to position yourself to prosper, so that you are not making rash moves from fear. Here's what I want to tell you, is that scared money can't make money. Agree or disagree with me? Scared money can't make money. And what do you think the antidote to fear is? What do you think the antidote to fear is? Action, knowledge. Here's what I want you to understand. The way you de-risk is not by being fearful and responding with rashness to every little thing people say to you. First thing you have to do is shift and have a wealth mindset and understand that problems are opportunities. The second thing you need to do is gain the knowledge so that you can identify those opportunities, because not every opportunity is an opportunity. And what do you think the third thing you need to be able to do? What's the third thing? Anybody want to guess? That's right, Roxanne, execute. And here, you guys want to know another secret? You guys want to know a secret that I've observed over and over and over and again after coaching thousands of people, majority women? What do you think sets the women apart from the women that do, the people, not just women, but the people that do really well, where the people that just get by? What do you think the difference is? They apply the knowledge correctly, absolutely. But what do you think the other thing is? They execute. They don't overthink. They don't overthink. Here's what I want to tell you, is that some of you have your ladder on the wrong wall. Now, what do I mean by that? Your ladder's on the wrong wall. You're climbing the ladder and you're thinking you're progressing, but you're not progressing because you have the wrong blueprint, right? And why we spend so much on mindset is because the blueprint that you're going to learn in WealthyU is almost the opposite from what you've been taught. And so it's going to be natural for you to resist a lot of the things that you're going to learn. And then you're going to have, lastly, it's going to be your circle, okay? Because you can have a lot of naysayers, right? There are people who are going to tell you that, don't do that, girl. You shouldn't do that. You're going to take risks. Or there are people that are going to be throwing rocks at you. They're going to see you being successful and they're going to want to pull you down. They're going to look for every little thing that they can find to say, oh, look at what she's doing. She shouldn't do that. they're trying to take advantage of you. They're gonna be haters, right? And so what I want you to know is why it is very, and I'm telling you, and I have them. And let me tell you, some of those people you think are your supporters, but they're not. But guess what? It doesn't even matter. You know what? Why? It doesn't even matter. Because you know what the antidote to all of those naysayers and all of those people that want to find some way to tear you down, you know what the antidote is to it? For you to be successful. Right? For you to be successful. And for you to be around other people who want you to be successful too, who know that if you can do it, you with me? To know that if you can do it, that they can do it too. To be inspired by it, to not be fearful, to keep moving forward. But in order to do that, you need to be with the right circle. Are you with me? It's the most important thing. When you're in the right circle, anything is possible, and nothing is impossible. So I want you to be in the right circle. I want you to join us in our Get Wealthy Challenge. Let's put that Linktree link out there too. If you want to know everything that we're up to, then make sure we put the Linktree link. It's just Linktree WealthyU. Put that in the chat as well, that you join our challenge right here. It starts at 8 o'clock on Monday, and every night I'm going to be sharing with you the secrets of the 1% and exactly what you need to do to accelerate your financial growth to 7 figures and beyond. All right, that's going to do it for me this evening. Thank you for joining me on WealthyU Wind Down. Check me out this Monday on Get Wealthy and at the start of our 5-day Get Wealthy Challenge. I can't wait to see you there, everybody. Have a great evening, everyone, and good night.